I made a deal with the system to take Simon's place as the villain. I played the part perfectly. I imprisoned the protagonist, controlled his every move, and took what I wanted by force. I did it all. And I knew it wouldn't last. The villain never survives the final act. That's how the story goes. So just before my ending arrived, I snapped. I locked Simon up and made him drink something. His body burned with fever, sweat clinging to his skin, eyes wide as he demanded, "What did you give me?" I leaned in close. "What do you think, Simon?" His breathing turned shallow and ragged, pain etched into every line of his face. The drug was taking effect, fast. "You brought this on yourself," I said. But truth be told, I had no idea a single fever reducer could work that well. Welcome to History Channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. I was an abandoned orphan. When the Howard family adopted me, I was 3. Simon was 8. After keeping Fong Yu locked up for days, he was finally rescued by his proper love interest. Next in line for me was bankruptcy, betrayal, drowning at sea, my body never to be recovered. The villain's fate I had inherited was about to play out in full. But before that happened, one last poisonous thought took root. I wanted to lock Simon up. I wanted him to walk the final stretch with me, even if it meant he'd end up hating me more. I went to Simon's company. It had been 3 years. This was the first time I sought him out on my own. Back then, I used to come here all the time. Mandy at the front desk would always prepare snacks for me. She'd smile and say, "Carl's here, go on up." I'd curl up on the lobby sofa doing homework, waiting for Simon to finish work so he could take me out for dinner. If I fell asleep by accident, Simon would gently cover me with a small blanket, lie down beside me, and rest for a while too. The sofa was big enough for both of us. It never felt crowded. I would wake in the quiet hush of night, the world outside stilled, and it would be just us. I was never scared, not with him. Buried against his chest was the safest place I'd ever known. Now, Mandy stood before me with courteous indifference, blocking my way. "Carl Howard, do you have an appointment?" "I'm here for Simon." "I'm sorry. Mr. Howard is currently busy. He's not taking visitors." Not taking visitors. I was a visitor now. A sharp, dense ache tightened in my chest. I forced a playful smile, the same one I used when I used to sweet-talk her. "Mandy, could you please check with Simon? I've missed him." For a second, her expression faltered, like she caught a glimpse of the child she once cared for. But it faded quickly. She clearly remembered everything I had done over the past few years. With a quiet sigh, she picked up the phone and dialed the internal line. A minute later, her voice came down like ice. "Mr. Howard declined." Of course. Simon hated me. The day I found out Simon Howard was this world's original villain, I saw the ending written in stone. The system forced me to watch it all. How Simon would be betrayed by everyone, how he'd be stripped of dignity, trampled underfoot by the protagonist, and left to die in disgrace. I trembled violently, nausea roiling inside me until I doubled over and vomited. No one knew how deeply I loved Simon. Loved him enough to die in his place without hesitation. Why did Simon deserve such a brutal end? The system asked me, "Do you want to stop his fate?" I said, "You just need someone to drive the plot and generate energy for this world. Whoever plays the role doesn't matter, right? Let me take his place. Let me be the villain. Let me walk the path meant for him." I didn't regret it, but I owed an apology to Albert Keane. He was the story's true protagonist, and my job was to tear him apart. We met in college. I genuinely saw him as someone important, someone other than Simon. Albert was kind, honest, bright like sunlight, but I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. The villain's ending required him to be punished by the protagonist. I couldn't let Simon bear that. So I started my own company during college to cut him out of the line of fire. I had my own protagonist halo. Everything went smoothly. Then, by the system's directive, I began fighting Albert's love interest, Omen Ray, for him. I used every dirty trick I could, crushed Omen's businesses, dragged him through legal hell, wounding myself just to hurt him more. I took to villainy like a natural. as if it had always been in my blood. I kidnapped Albert Keene. Watched the fear bloom in his eyes. Used Omen Ray's life as leverage to force his obedience. Gripping his chin, I said with a sneer, "Still thinking about him? He can't save you. No one can. Be with me. If you agree, I'll let you go." Albert looked at me like I was a stranger, his voice shaking with pain. "Carl Howard, why are you doing this to me? I thought we were best friends." It felt like my heart was being sliced apart slowly, piece by piece. But all I could say was, "Friends? I don't have any friends. What's so good about following Omen Ray? Why not choose me instead?" What I owed him, I would never be able to repay. Since Simon refused to see me, I waited by his car like a stray. It was long past the end of the workday when he finally appeared. The years had washed away his youthful softness, leaving behind only sharp edges and cold distance. His gaze landed on me for the briefest second before it slid away, utterly emotionless. I stood up straight, voice dry and strained. "Simon." He paused mid-step, then let out a low scoff, sharp and cutting. "Simon? Have you forgotten? Didn't you publicly cut ties with me? Carl Howard, when did I ever have a brother?" I took a deep breath, forcing down the burning in my eyes. I stepped in front of him, offering a small, awkward smile, tugging at the black hoodie I was wearing. "Simon, look, I wore the one you bought me today. You said it looked good on me, that it matched my skin tone." His eyes flicked briefly toward the hoodie, barely a glance. "I don't remember. Move." He brushed past me and opened his car door. I shamelessly climbed into the passenger seat. He turned to look at me, eyes filled with exhaustion and disgust. "Get out." "Simon, have dinner with me?" "Carl Howard, what exactly do you want? Do you really think we can still sit down like family and share a meal? I'm tired of watching you put on a show." I reached out, desperate, grabbing his arm. "Simon, on my 18th birthday, you promised me one wish. I'm cashing it in." His pupils contracted just slightly. For a split second, something shifted. The wall cracked. He froze, brows tightening, searching my face. That memory, perhaps it had once meant something warm to him too. On my 18th birthday, Simon didn't show. That afternoon, he had cleared his schedule for me, but at the last minute, something happened. One of his engineers collapsed from a sudden illness. The man's family was overseas. Simon had to go. He called me. "Carl, I'm sorry. A senior at work had a medical emergency. I'm at the hospital." I knew what was more important. I rushed to reassure him. "It's fine. We get a birthday every year. Just make sure you eat something, okay?" I made plans with my classmates anyway. But that was a lie. I canceled every invitation. I just wanted to spend the day with him. That night, I sat alone in the empty living room, staring at the cake Simon had ordered ahead of time, waiting until 3 a.m. Simon came home, wind-blown and exhausted, the whites of his eyes rimmed with red from lack of sleep. He froze when he saw me. His voice scraped raw. "Carl, why are you still awake?" I forced a smile and leapt up, stumbling into his arms. "Simon, I was waiting for you to cut the cake. Light the candle, I'm making a wish." In the candlelight I closed my eyes and whispered with every ounce of devotion I had, "I want to be with Simon, forever." When I blew the candle out, he looked at me, serious, impossibly gentle. "What did you wish for? Can Simon help make it come true?" I shook my head. Wishes lose their power if you say them out loud. He fell silent for a moment, then lifted his gaze with a solemnity that made my heart clench. "Then I owe you a wish. Whatever you want from now on, if it's within me to give it, I'll do it. Promise." "Okay." I tucked that promise like a secret jewel in my chest. I even kept a childish little plan. If I ever mustered the courage to confess more than brotherly feelings, and he refused, well, I thought I might try to trade in that wish. I liked Simon. More than liked. But later, everything turned upside down, and that wish had no chance to be spent. That desire, to be together, had been whispered so quietly in my heart that it lost its power. I never said the words aloud, and still they failed. After a long pause, Simon slumped back in his chair, closed his eyes, his Adam's apple rising and falling. His voice was low and hoarse. Do you have to be like this? I persisted, stubborn as ever. Just one dinner, Simon. Your cream pasta, I haven't had it in ages. After I burn this wish, I'll stop bothering you. Forever. He opened his eyes. There was a dark, tired cloud in them, but he nodded once. Just this once, Carl Howard. Don't show up in front of me after that. I nodded. Okay. The car pulled up under my apartment block. I opened the door first and stepped aside for Simon. He shrugged off his coat and draped it on the hallway rack before heading straight to the kitchen. He opened the fridge and scanned it with the flat tone of someone too tired to be playful. You're missing ingredients. I can't make cream pasta. It's fine. We'll make whatever we can, I said. He went silent and set to work with practiced movements, washing vegetables, pulling out pans. His broad back faced me, unguarded. I stood behind him, heart hammering. Instead of doing something cruel, I did the only reckless thing that felt right. I slid my hands up his sides and pressed close, breath warm against the nape of his neck. Simon, I murmured. He startled, turned, and for a moment everything hung on that look. There was fatigue and something fierce in his eyes. He reached for me, hesitant, then with growing need, and we met in a shaky, desperate kiss. When he pulled back slightly, his face was a storm. Carl, what are you doing to me? His hands trembled, not with anger but with a mix of fear and desire. I swallowed and, voice breaking, said, Stay with me. Just a little. Tonight. He closed his eyes, and the tension in his jaw loosened. All right, for now. Stay. We let the evening undo us, two people who had loved and hurt each other too many times. The kisses came and went, urgent and clumsy, learning one another again. I asked breathlessly in the hush between heartbeats, Simon, call me Carl? He pressed his forehead to mine and answered, voice thick, Carl. The rest blurred into a reckless, aching closeness. Hands, mouths, the kind of clumsy tenderness only two people who knew each other's scars could share. He asked suddenly, voice small and raw, have you been with Albert Keene? His eyes were rimmed red, a little vulnerable. I kissed the corner of his mouth and hugged him tighter. No. No, Simon. Don't be gentle. Hearing that, he might have softened for a breath. In that dizzy, fevered moment I thought, maybe I wouldn't jump into the sea after all. Maybe I could die right here in his arms and that would be enough. We lost track of time. In the heat and flutter of the room we became a single frantic thing. I had no idea how long we tangled and fell into each other. At one point Simon's body tensed. He stopped, listening for something. Then he shook in sudden alarm. Carl, get off. Now. I glanced down and saw a bright, worrying red stain. Not just sweat, a cut, deeper than I wanted to admit. I refused to move. No. Not yet. Don't stop. Be sensible. He tried to scold, voice muffled with worry. You're hurt. Let me undo the cuff. I'm not leaving. Let me see. My throat tightened. You lied to me. If I free you, you'll go. You'll leave me. It was childish, unfair, blaming him for my own choices, but the words hit him like a splinter. Old wounds and years of neglected truths pressed forward. Simon's voice rose, shaking with the years of suppressed pain. Carl Howard, it was you who said you hated me. You said I was disgusting. Back when I had followed the system's demands, he had stopped me many times. The angriest argument, the one that had landed us both against the wall, had left his eyes blazing with hurt and confusion. Carl, what are you trying to do? You were never a bad kid. Tell me. Tell Simon what happened. I pushed his hand away and, desperate and cruel in my own fear, lashed out with the sharpest words I could find, words that cut like knives and landed where only the truth could bleed. Simon Howard returned in a rush, fatigue etched deep into his face, bloodshot eyes betraying the exhaustion he tried to suppress. He paused when he saw me, surprise flickering across his expression. His voice came out hoarse. Carl? Why aren't you asleep yet? I grinned and sprang up from the couch, throwing myself into his arms. I was waiting for you to cut the cake. Light the candles for me, I want to make a wish. Under the soft flicker of candlelight, I shut my eyes and whispered my wish silently in my heart. Please let me be with Simon forever. When I blew out the flame, Simon looked at me with a tenderness that made my heart ache. What did you wish for? Maybe I can help you make it come true. I shook my head. If I say it out loud, it won't come true. He was quiet for a moment, then leaned in slightly, eyes steady. Then I owe you one wish. Whatever it is, if I can make it happen, I will. Deal? I tucked that promise into the deepest corner of my heart, protecting it like a secret. Maybe one day, when I gathered the courage to tell him I wanted more than just being his brother, I could pull that card. Force his hand. Make him say yes. Yes, I like Simon. But fate had its own cruel sense of timing. That wish, never spoken aloud, was never granted. The longing I had clung to quietly and desperately dissolved into silence. Much later, Simon leaned back in the chair, eyes closed, Adam's apple shifting as he swallowed hard. His voice was low, nearly broken. Do you really have to do this? I stood firm. Just one meal, Simon. Your cream pasta, I haven't had it in so long. Let me use my wish on this. After that, I won't bother you anymore. He opened his eyes, something dark and unreadable swirling in them. Finally, he nodded. Just this once. After that, Carl Howard, don't show up in front of me again. I nodded. Okay. He cooked. Even though he complained that the fridge was half empty and muttered under his breath about substitutions, he still moved around the kitchen like he belonged there, like this wasn't the last time we'd ever be alone together. His back was turned. I stepped closer. By the time he realized what I had done, it was too late. He stumbled, confused and dizzy. Before he could finish the sentence, he collapsed into my arms, barely conscious. His breathing grew shallow. He fought to stay awake, confusion burning in his eyes. I held him close, whispering as I stroked his furrowed brow. Just stay with me tonight, Simon. Please. The next morning, when he opened his eyes and found himself restrained, the look he gave me was one I would never forget. Betrayal. Rage. Disbelief. Are you insane? Let me go, Carl. He thrashed against the bindings, muscles tense, veins bulging in his neck. You're running a fever, I said softly, reaching to touch his forehead. He turned his face away. Even that small rejection stung. I tried to smile. Don't be mad, Simon. I just wanted to take care of you. He froze for a moment at my words, breathing hard, his expression empty and scattered. You don't make any sense, he muttered. You do all this, and you still want me to believe you care? I leaned in, whispering near his ear. I missed you. That's all. Later, when I tended to his wounds, he didn't pull away. He even reached for the ointment himself, asking me to lie down properly so he could see what he was doing. His touch was careful, gentle. His voice softened into something that reminded me of years ago. You'll be okay. Just stop doing reckless things. I buried my face in the pillow, murmuring, Simon, sing me a song. The one you used to hum when I couldn't sleep. He paused. It took him a long time before his voice came, low and quiet. But it was the same tune. Familiar. My favorite sound in the world. I fell asleep in his arms that night. In the early light of dawn, I opened my eyes to find his hand on my forehead. The moment he noticed I was awake, he pulled away, his face shuddering back into its usual cold distance. If you're fine now, unlock me. I need to go to work. I slowly sat up, body sore, voice low. You're not going anywhere. He glared at me, veins twitching at his temple. You're unbelievable. I smiled faintly. I could be worse. You still have strength, right? I leaned in close, too close. He stiffened instantly. Carl Howard, he hissed, voice fraying, are you trying to get yourself killed? I laughed softly. Would you care if I did? The phone buzzed on the nightstand. I picked it up and pressed it to his ear without warning. Simon, just take the day off. You wouldn't want anyone to see us like this, would you? He barely managed to keep his voice even as he spoke to his assistant. Something came up. I'll be working from home. Forward the meeting to Edward. Urgent files, sent to my inbox. When I finally hung up for him, he looked at me, half exasperated, half defeated. Happy now? I leaned into his shoulder with a grin. Not yet. Stay a little longer. He did. The next day, he calmly commented, "The chain is too short." I blinked. What? He raised his wrist slightly. Get a longer one. I need to shower and work. Or do you want me strapped to the bed forever? It wasn't what I expected. Not fury. Not shouting. Just pragmatism. You're telling me how to imprison you better? Not telling. Just saying it's uncomfortable. My heart softened. I'll fix it. A new chain was brought in. One that let him move between the bedroom and bathroom. He got his laptop and settled into work. But I couldn't stop myself from climbing into his lap, curling against his chest, and brushing my lips against his neck. He didn't push me away. And for the first time in a long while, it felt like we were okay. At least somewhat. Simon lowered his voice, the warning in his tone unmistakable. Carl Howard, I'm in a meeting. You take your meeting, I'll keep doing what I'm doing, I mumbled, slipping my hand under his pajama shirt. The senior executive on the screen kept presenting figures and charts, completely unaware that Simon's breathing had grown shallow. He grabbed my wrist in a panic. Carl Howard, he gritted through his teeth. I giggled and kissed his cheek. Don't get distracted, Simon. You should be listening to your team. Afterwards, I lay sprawled across his chest, listening to the thundering beat of his heart slowly settle. It reminded me of when I was little, how I used to nap on him like this. I chuckled. Simon, do you remember when I wet the bed and you had to clean me up? He tilted his head back, thinking for a moment, then the corner of his mouth lifted. Yeah. You were too scared to admit it. Curled up under the blanket, crying like a little mouse. I was 3 when I was adopted by the Howard family. Simon was already 8. The head of the orphanage had knelt in front of me that day, rubbing her hands nervously and whispering, Carl, remember to listen to your new daddy and your big brother Simon, okay? I nodded solemnly, clutching a patched-up stuffed bear, my only belonging. Simon had been standing quietly at the corner of the stairs. He had a pretty face, even then, but his lips were pursed, and his eyes were hard to read. I hugged my bear tighter and whispered, My name is Carl. I was small, chubby, and shy, just a soft bundle standing in a shaft of golden light. No one could stay cold in front of something that soft. Simon's stiff expression melted a little. He nodded seriously, trying to act grown up. Hi, Carl. I'm Simon. I slowly moved toward him, extending my tiny hand, and gently curled it around one of his fingers. He flinched slightly, then wrapped my hand in his much larger, warm palm. In the smallest voice, I repeated, Hi, Simon. I'm Carl. Simon cleared his throat, straightened up, and nodded again, this time more confident. Come on, Carl. I'll show you your room. It was only a few days later that I wet the bed for the first time. I was terrified. I stayed frozen under the sheets, covering the damp spot with my little body, tears streaming silently. I didn't dare move. I didn't want Dad to hate me. I didn't want Simon to hate me. The new nanny didn't like me. She called me dirty and stupid, said I had no manners. If I misbehaved, she'd pinch my arms and thighs when no one was watching. I didn't even dare to cry. One morning, Simon walked into the room and found me like that. Carl, why are you crying? He asked. I peed the bed, I stammered. I'm sorry, Simon. I'll wash the blanket myself. I'm not dirty. Please don't hate me. He froze for a second, then picked me up and carried me to the bathroom. That's when he saw the bruises on my arms. I wiped at my teary face, trying to be strong, reminding myself, don't cry, be a good kid. Simon pinched my nose gently and said, You're still little. Wetting the bed and crying are perfectly normal. That's not being bad. I sniffled. Will I stop doing that when I grow up? He dried me off with a fluffy towel and tucked me into his warm, clean bed. You might, he said. But even if you don't, it's okay. You've got me. Simon will protect you. The next day, that cruel nanny disappeared from the house. She never came back. As I got older, I started to understand things I hadn't before. I learned that I had been adopted because some fortune teller claimed my birth chart would bring prosperity to the Howard family. And for a while it seemed to work. The business boomed. My adoptive father laughed and called me the family's lucky charm. But then, the company started to struggle. His temper changed. He stopped seeing me as lucky. He started blaming me. He said I was a curse. That I brought nothing but bad luck. Dinner became a minefield. Any noise might set him off. Then it escalated to shoving. Then hitting. Why did we adopt you? You're useless. Bad luck. A walking disaster. You've ruined me. I was so scared I could barely move. The first time he raised his hand to hit me, Simon jumped between us. The blow landed hard. I heard Simon grunt. Don't hit him, Dad. He's just a kid. Move, or I'll beat the both of you. Simon didn't move. Even when he could barely stand, he crawled back to shield me with his body. He held me close, whispering, "Don't be scared. I'm here." He dragged me to his room, dug out the first aid kit, and treated my wounds clumsily, not even flinching at his own. I saw blood trickling from his forehead and finally broke down. "It hurts, Simon. I'm sorry. I'm the reason you got hurt. I'm a curse." "No, Carl. You're not a curse. You're my blessing." That night I started having nightmares, dreams of abandonment, of beatings. And every time I woke up crying, I'd sneak to his door and curl up there like a stray. He always found me. He always pulled me into bed and let me sleep in his arms. He became everything to me. My protector. My only safe place. When I was 10, our father died in a car crash. He was gone instantly. But Simon was still there. And that, somehow, made it bearable. The once grand Howard family was gone overnight. Now it was just me and Simon. Relatives circled like vultures, fighting over what remained of the estate. They called me a jinx, said I brought misfortune, said I should be sent away. I was terrified that Simon would give up on me too. That night, thunder rolled across the sky, lightning cracking like a whip. I clutched my pillow and ran barefoot into Simon's room, throwing myself into his arms, sobbing until my voice broke. "Simon, please don't send me away. Please don't leave me. I'll eat less, I'll be good, so good. Just don't make me go." Simon held me so tightly it hurt. His body was trembling, too, maybe from the thunder, maybe from fear, because he had no one else either. "I only have you left, Carl. I'll never leave you. We'll be together. Always." I believed him more than I'd ever believed anything in my life. The world had never been kind to me, but Simon was. And as long as he was kind, the world felt a little less cruel. And he kept his promise. He worked through school to raise me. When I was in high school, Simon was already starting his own business. There wasn't much I could do to help, just try to take care of myself, study hard, and give him one less thing to worry about. My happiest moments were the nights I waited for him to come home. By day, he bowed and smiled to strangers, drank toasts at dinners he didn't want to attend, fought for every scrap of opportunity. Then one day I got a call. He was in the ER with gastric bleeding from drinking too much. When I arrived, he was pale as a ghost, lying on a hospital bed. My heart nearly gave out. I would have traded anything to take his pain. I clutched his hand, thinking, if anything happens to Simon, I don't want to live either. He opened his eyes, weakly. Seeing my tear-streaked face, he raised the hand without the fore and wiped my tears. "Don't be scared, Carl. I'm not going anywhere." He pulled me close, wrapped me in his arms. "I promised you. We'll always be together." I ached for him. But he said loving me didn't hurt. We grew up this way, side by side, leaning on each other, stumbling through everything. We were closer than anyone. Irreplaceable parts of each other's lives. When I spoke of the past, Simon visibly relaxed. He absently played with my ear and then asked, almost offhandedly, "Carl Howard, are you planning to keep me locked up forever?" My heart twisted. Forever? I couldn't afford something like forever. But yes, I wanted to keep him for my forever. Not his. I didn't answer. He turned his head toward me, eyes fixed on my face, and rephrased the question. "Then when will you get tired of me? Give me a date." He said it like a prisoner marking days on a wall, waiting calmly for release. I buried my face in his chest and tried to make my voice sound light, casual, careless. "Don't worry, Simon. I'll let you go soon." He heard me clearly. His arms stiffened for a second. No relief, no joy in his expression. Without a word, he pulled his arm out from beneath me and turned his back, leaving me with the distant coldness of his shoulders. "Simon." I eventually slid closer and wrapped my arms around him from behind. He didn't push me away, but he didn't return the embrace either. We stayed that way, close, yet divided by an invisible wall. Then came the system's cold prompt. Protagonist Omen Ray has successfully severed your final funding source. Your company will be declared bankrupt. Please prepare for the final plot progression. I answered silently in my head. In the middle of the night, I slowly turned over and nestled into Simon's arms again. Even in sleep, he sensed it. His brows furrowed, and he instinctively pulled me closer. That unconscious gesture shattered me. I was lying. I wasn't ready to leave. I couldn't let go. I was selfish. I was small-hearted. I wanted to keep him. Why was time so short? Why couldn't I have more? Every second I spent with Simon felt like grains of sand slipping through my fingers. I clutched at them helplessly, desperate. I didn't want to leave Simon. I didn't want to leave him, at all. I choked back a sob and whispered, "Simon, I have to go." We were going to be separated forever. He would live on, escape the fate of being a villain. He'd go on to have a long, bright life with the protagonists of this world. I stared at him the rest of the night, afraid to blink, trying to burn every detail of his face into my soul, so I could carry it with me, into the next life. The next morning, I made breakfast for Simon. The egg came out a little burnt at the edges, the shape not exactly pretty. But I remembered, even when I used to wreck the kitchen, serve up disasters on a plate, Simon would eat everything with a straight face, then ruffle my hair and say with a smile, "Our Carl is amazing." He never minded. I plated the egg, toasted some bread, warmed the milk, and brought everything in on a tray. Simon was already awake, sitting up in bed with his phone. The light from the screen reflected on his face. His expression was grim. Something tightened in my chest. I set the tray down and reached out instinctively, my palm brushing his forehead. "Simon, what's wrong? Are you feeling?" "Don't touch me." He slapped my hand away. I stumbled. The tray tipped. Plates crashed to the floor. I stared at the broken pieces, frozen. Then came his voice, cold and sharp as a blade, laced with bitter sarcasm and despair. "Your company's done." I said nothing for a moment, then quietly lowered my gaze. It's been in trouble for a while now." He laughed, at first just a twitch of the lips, then fuller, shaking with something deeper. "So this is it, huh? This was your plan, Carl Howard." His eyes were red, and he looked at me like I was a stranger who'd ripped his heart out. Locking me up, acting pitiful, clinging to me, playing the role like your life depended on it. All just to get me to feel sorry for you, so I'd bail you out again. Like before. Beautiful. You snap your fingers, I give you everything. Must feel great, huh? His voice trembled, every word soaked in betrayal. I deserved this, didn't I? I let you play me. Again. Carl Howard, why don't you just kill me? Wouldn't that be quicker? What did I ever do to deserve being used like this? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. From his point of view, everything made sense. I'd used the wish from our childhood to get him back. Drugged him. Kept him close. Acted like I couldn't live without him, only for him to find out my company was collapsing. It looked like a performance. A cruel, calculated lie. And I had no way to explain it. His chest heaved with furious breath. Unlock the chains. I walked over numbly and unfastened the restraints on his wrists and ankles. He threw off the blanket, not sparing me a glance, and stormed into the bathroom. A moment later, I heard the water running. I wandered to the balcony, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it with shaking fingers. The smoke burned down my throat. I coughed violently, tears prickling at my eyes. I didn't even know how to smoke. But I'd seen Simon do it, back when things got too heavy. I guess I just wanted to feel grown up, like him. Behind me, I heard his footsteps. Simon was fully dressed, walking toward the door without a word. "Simon!" I stubbed out the cigarette, voice hoarse as I called after him. His hand paused on the doorknob. I gathered what little pride I had left and whispered a plea, "Just hold me. One last time." He stood still for a moment, then said calmly, without turning around, "Carl Howard, tell me you love me and I'll stay." I couldn't say that I didn't love him. But I couldn't say that I did either, not if I planned to disappear and leave him to drown in grief. So I said nothing. He let out a bitter laugh, like someone who had finally run out of hope. "Carl Howard, I really do hate you." He slammed the door behind him. The sound echoed through the apartment, like a crack splitting my chest open. I slowly crouched down, picked up the cold fried egg from the floor, and stuffed it into my mouth. So bitter. No wonder Simon didn't eat it. My phone started buzzing wildly, screen lighting up nonstop. I didn't need to check. I already knew. The news about the company's bankruptcy had gotten out. I shut it off. The world fell into silence. I took my time cleaning the apartment. Then I brought out the box of photos I'd saved over the years. One of them was from when I was first adopted, standing timidly beside Simon, who was awkwardly holding my hand. One showed him at his high school graduation. I had jumped up to hook my arm around his neck, beaming so hard my eyes had disappeared into crescents. Another was from the day he secured his first investment. We were celebrating at home. He was smiling down at me as I lit the candles. The glow reflected softly in his eyes. I looked at each one carefully, then lit a match. The photos curled and blackened, eaten away by flames until all that remained was a handful of ash. I wasn't sure if I was burning them for myself. Maybe I'd receive them in the next world. Who knows? Maybe dying would give me the answer. I drove to the coast. The wind was wild. Waves slammed against jagged rocks with a roar. I stood at the edge, barely able to keep my footing. Beneath me, deep, endless blue. The system spoke up. "Host, I have something to say to you." "I don't want to hear it. I've never hated anything more than I hate you." I spread my arms, breathed in the salt and wind, and jumped. The moment of freefall came with a rush of wind in my ears. The weightlessness stretched, suspended, as if time itself was slowing down. Images flashed through my mind like a broken film reel. And then, one still frame. A warm afternoon, long ago. I was half asleep on Simon's back, sun on my face, his steady footsteps beneath me. I had murmured, "Simon, don't leave me." And his voice, soft and certain, had drifted back. "I won't." Salt water surged into my mouth, nose, ears, burning like fire. I couldn't breathe. It hurt. I drank in more water than I thought possible. Would Simon cry for me after I died? He never cried. Simon Howard arrived at Omen Ray's company with fire in his veins. He had promised himself, this time, he wouldn't go back. Wouldn't interfere. Carl was cruel. Manipulative. Nothing like the sweet boy he used to know. He stormed out of his apartment, anger blazing, and consoled himself halfway through the door. He wouldn't get involved. Someone else could save Carl this time. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't watch Carl lose everything. Not even after the lies, the betrayal, the manipulation, the way Carl had crushed his heart underfoot. Because in the back of his mind, he kept hearing Carl's childish voice from years ago. "Simon, when I grow up, I'm going to start a company too. I want to stand beside you." It broke him. He gave in like always. He pressed a hand to his eyes and muttered, "You little brat, how do you always get away with it?" Love had no logic. It could give life. It could destroy. It could grind a man down to dust, make him beg, just to be seen by the one he loved. Even if it was only once. Even if that look wasn't real. "Mr. Ray," he said, voice flat, "please spare Carl Howard's company. Let it survive." Omen Ray looked at him like he was insane. "He doesn't even acknowledge you anymore. What right do you have to ask me for anything?" Simon clenched his jaw. "I'll make up for every loss you've suffered. I have 12% of the Howard Group's fluid shares and a controlling stake, 30%, in my own tech company. I'll transfer both to you. We sign today, it's done. The past will be wiped clean. The offer was heavy enough to tempt any businessman. It was half his empire. His future. Omen Ray laughed in disbelief. All for that piece of trash? Simon Howard, are you out of your damn mind? Do you know what that bastard did? Threats, coercion, sabotage. He's a monster. A total lunatic. He's not trash, Simon said quietly. He's my brother. And someone I love. He hesitated. I didn't raise him well. Whatever he owes, I'll pay. I'll take him to Albert Keene myself and apologize. Whatever Albert wants, I'll give. I'll make it right. He couldn't excuse Carl's actions. They were indefensible. But a voice deep inside him screamed, that's not the whole story. That wasn't the Carl he knew. Brother? Lover? Omen Ray spat. He's bankrupt and desperate. Now he's pushing you out as a shield? Wake up, Simon. He's using you. Everything that's happened, he deserves it. Simon's hands curled into fists, knuckles bone white. He only stayed steady because the pain grounded him. Doesn't matter. Just agree, Omen. Your first investment came from me. Consider this me repaying that debt. Please. Omen Ray's voice trembled with frustration. What is it about that man? What the hell is so special about Carl Howard? Simon's breath caught. One or two? Fuss? The office door swung open. And the answer stood in the doorway. Albert Keene, breathless, clearly having rushed all the way. Stop it. That's enough, Xiao Yu, he said quietly. Omen Ray grabbed his arm. Albert? Are you really still defending him after everything he's done to you? Albert shook his head firmly. I haven't forgotten. But I remember something else even more clearly. Carl Howard didn't use to be like this. He turned to Simon, then back to Omen, as if scrambling to find the right words. In college, you didn't know, there was this student who got sick and couldn't afford treatment. Carl saved up quietly and donated anonymously. He never told anyone, even after the guy recovered. I only found out by accident. That stray cat rescue behind campus? He funded that. And remember that time we were out eating? A bunch of drunk guys harassed the waitress, and everyone froze. Carl was the first to get up. Took a bottle to the arm, but he didn't back down. There's more. So much more. I've been thinking about it these past few days. He must be going through something. Or maybe he's sick. Not physically. I mean in his mind. But he's not a bad person, Omen. I swear he's not. Simon listened quietly. And his chest ached. He hadn't known any of this. But it fit. That was the Carl he knew, brave, kind, protective. He wasn't always like this. And maybe there was still something left to save. He made a mental note. When Carl came home, he'd apologize for everything. For the anger. For the harsh words. Just then his phone rang. He picked up. The voice on the other end was frantic. Mr. Howard. You need to come right away. Your brother? He jumped. Simon didn't understand the words at first. He struggled to process the sentence, his body going cold from the inside out. Jumped? No, it can't be. You promised we'd always be together. A month later. Status, 90% dead. I hovered beside my own hospital bed, staring down at the body lying motionless beneath the sheets, my face pale, eyes shut. Full-on vegetative state. Clinically confirmed. Official. And if that weren't ridiculous enough, there was a shivering little white orb of light next to me, the good-for-nothing system, bawling like a baby. Why wasn't I fully dead, and why was I floating here? Don't get me started, or I'll punch that system into another timeline. Let's rewind to the day I jumped into the ocean. Salt water rushed into my lungs and nose, the pain of drowning clouding everything, until I thought it was finally over. I was ready to die and maybe receive the ashes of the photos I'd burned. But no, that damn system exploded in my head, screaming. Carl Howard, I lied. Simon was never the villain. You were. You've been the villain all along. What the hell? Seriously, I wanted to kill it. All that soul-crushing sacrifice, all that tragic devotion, all that self-inflicted torment? Just me playing myself. In the very last second before I blacked out, something inside me snapped. I clawed for the surface like my life depended on it. Because screw dying. Just as one of the rescue team reached out to grab my arm, everything went black. When I next woke up, I was like this, disembodied, tethered beside my own comatose body. And that glowing traitor of a system was tied to me like a cosmic punishment. It cried and mumbled something about how I was a seasoned villain from multiple worlds. That when I entered this world, it had low energy and shut down. I lost all memory of being a villain. By the time it rebooted, it saw that I had derailed the plot. I'd become best friends with the protagonist, and Simon, my precious Simon, raised me like I was his entire world. We were even secretly in love. Completely off script. The system freaked out. And then it got creative. Lied. Told me Simon was the villain. It bet everything that I'd go along with the script for his sake. And it won that bet. So now, for the past month, my daily routine was 1. Stare at my unconscious self. 2. Punch the sobbing system light ball out of frustration. 3. Watch Simon. The system quivered beside me. I reported everything. It's a rare case. They're still figuring out what to do. I slammed 2 more punches into it. Figure out what? You want me to just watch him like this? I pointed to the side of the bed. Simon had visibly wasted away. His eyes were sunken. His face drawn and hollow. Carl, when you wake up, let's go sit in the sun again, okay? He wrung out a towel and carefully wiped my face, my neck, my arms, talking softly the whole time. The company's fine now. I handled everything. Albert Keene came by a few times. You're probably going to be embarrassed once you're up. He finished cleaning me, then took out moisturizer and gently massaged it into my hands. He didn't miss a single knuckle. Mandy asked about you again yesterday. She was crying in secret. It's my fault. I didn't take good care of you. His voice lowered and cracked with every word until it gave out completely. His forehead rested against the back of my lifeless hand, and his shoulders began to tremble. Please, just say something. Carl, are you punishing me? Is it because I said I hated you? Because I hurt you with those words? Is that why you don't want me anymore? I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, come back. Don't do this to me. Simon was crying. I stared at those tear-filled eyes, and even though my spirit body had no nerves, no real tears, it felt like my entire soul was in pain. I hovered beside him, frantic. I tried to wrap my arms around him, to comfort him, but I passed right through him again and again. Simon, I'm right here. I shouted. I'm okay, I'm just stuck. I'll come back, I promise. Don't be afraid. He leaned in, resting his ear against my chest, holding his breath, listening intently for a heartbeat. When he heard it, he stayed frozen in that position for a long time, before slowly straightening and gripping my hand. He sat there for half the day, unmoving. Simon looked so fragile. My heart ached just looking at him. The system mumbled, "He really does love you a lot." I turned and glared. Of course he does. He always has. You want another punch? The system retreated. I'm sorry. I was just following the task protocol. I tried to tell you before you jumped, but you wouldn't listen. I grabbed its glow and squeezed it. Then why didn't you wait until I died to spill the truth? You weren't going to die. You were just supposed to shift to the next world. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. I'm coming back. Good news, I can recover. Bad news, it'll take a year before I wake up. The system, still trembling, explained that this was the first time headquarters had seen a case like mine. Your condition's rare. Your soul can't return just yet. But we can transfer you to another smaller world to do missions, collect enough energy, and you can return. Classic. Same old script. Go play the villain, recharge, repeat. I gave it another beating. So basically, I wasn't useful enough in this world, so now I had to go slave away in others? Damn capitalist systems. But after I was done pummeling it, I could only sigh and accept it. Because I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to Simon so badly. I wanted to hold him, kiss him, tell him that none of it was real, that I loved him more than anything. Before I left, I looked at Simon, lifeless, empty, clinging to my hand like it was the only thing keeping him alive, and it hurt. Deeply. I couldn't stand the thought of him crumbling during the year I was gone. I grabbed the system's glow. Send him a dream. Right now. Tell him to take care of himself. Tell him to wait for me. The system flickered wildly under my grip. Okay. I'm doing it. Just don't squeeze me anymore. Night had fallen in the hospital room. Simon had finally fallen asleep, his head resting beside my hand, fingers still curled tightly around mine. His brow was furrowed, even in sleep. His dreams were uneasy. The system floated up and hovered above him, emitting a gentle, soft light that slowly soaked into his forehead. I watched, heart pounding. After a while, Simon's expression softened. His breathing steadied. What was he seeing? Was it little me, clinging to his neck and whining like I used to? Was it the two of us as teens, sharing a single slice of cake on the couch? Was it the messy, complicated days of our entanglement? The system drifted back, its glow dimmed. It's done. I told him. He'll know you're coming back. Tell me exactly what you said. Word for word. The system mumbled. Carl Howard is coming back. You need to eat and sleep properly, or he'll be mad when he returns. I added, he loves you. The last 3 words came out of the system's mouth in a nervous stammer. I paused. My anger, my panic, all dulled for a moment. At least the little idiot knew when to grovel. I drifted closer to Simon, and even though I couldn't touch him, I mimicked the motion of an embrace, pressing close to his lips. Simon, please believe me. Don't hate me anymore. Wait for me. When I return, we'll be together forever. Stop crying. You're breaking my heart. Post, are you ready? We're departing for the next world. I took one last look at Simon's sleeping profile. Inhale. Let's go. And just like that, I began my journey through world after world, each one a twisted little theater where I played the villain. The roles were all similar, vicious side characters, deranged antagonists. Push the plot, collect energy. The system watched as I played my parts with unnerving ease. Host, you're really good at being evil. It's like a gift. I smirked coldly. Not a gift. I just imagine every one of them is you, and then it all comes naturally. That's cruel. After each task, I was allowed a brief glimpse of Simon. He looked better. A bit stronger. He would sit beside my hospital bed, rest his forehead against my hand, and whisper softly, was I good, Carl? Did I wait properly? How much longer do you need me to wait? Carl, please hurry home. Every time I saw him like that, I dragged the system out for another brutal beating, and threw myself even harder into the next mission. The last task ended. The system glowed so brightly it was almost blinding. It bounced excitedly. Host, the energy is complete. I'm sending you back, now. A force gripped my soul and pulled me like a tidal wave. I opened my eyes. At first, everything was a blur. I blinked, slowly adjusting. The world sharpened around me. I turned my stiff neck just a little, and saw him. Simon, asleep at the edge of my bed, his hand wrapped tightly around mine. He looked so thin, so tired. Even in sleep, his brow was furrowed like he couldn't let himself rest. My heart shattered into pieces. I flexed my fingers ever so slightly. That faint movement was all it took. Simon's head shot up. His pupils contracted violently. His whole body froze. Not even his breath moved. I forced a small smile. Simon, I'm back. His eyes reddened instantly. His throat let out nothing but a choked, broken gasp. He took my hand in both of his and pressed it to his burning cheek. Tears soaked my skin. You're back. That's all that matters. He bent down and kissed my forehead, his tears wetting my face. I love you. Extra chapter. The moment I woke up, the first thing I did was explain that everything, the manipulation, the madness, had been part of the system's task. By the end, my voice broke. Simon. Albert. I'm so sorry. I didn't have a choice. I thought Simon might die. Simon's expression shifted. Shock, then realization, and finally, pain. So he used me. Used my life to control you. Albert exhaled in relief. You too? Damn it. Why didn't you just tell me? I would have helped you. I thought you actually didn't want to be friends anymore. They forgave me so easily. My nose stung. All I could say was, thank you for forgiving me. Omen Ray, who'd been silent with crossed arms, snorted. Sounds convincing. Almost like it's real. Simon shot him a cold glance. Everything my Carl says is true. He pulled me into his arms protectively. It was clear whose side he was on. No one knows how much he suffered. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Albert Keene joined in, glaring. Yeah, I agree. Omen Ray opened his mouth, and then closed it again. Faced with the united front of Simon and Albert, he gritted his teeth, muttered, fine, whatever. As long as he's awake. Simon never got over the trauma of my coma. He became clingy, possessive, wouldn't let me out of his sight. When I returned home, I found the shackles I'd once used on him, laid neatly on the table. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. Voice low and rough, are you scared? I shook my head, turned, held him by the neck, kissed his lips. No. Simon, you can do whatever you want. So he did. He lined the inside of the shackles with soft cotton and fastened them to my ankle. He needed that tactile proof, the physical evidence that I was back and not going anywhere. I was drowning in his sickness and devotion. Willingly. Sweetly. He even added 2 tiny bells to the chain. With every movement, they chimed, crisp, gentle, and lingering. A constant, soft reminder of my presence. Simon loved the sound. At night, when he moved over me, the bells rang in rhythm with his movements. I clung to his shoulders, dazed, breathless. He licked the side of my neck, voice hoarse and burning. Slower? You don't like it, Carl? I do. I wrapped my legs tighter around him. He called my name over and over in my ear. The death script written for a villain like me had finally reached its end. Afterward, still in that same position, he held me close. He kissed my shoulders, my back, traced the red marks around my ankle. Does it hurt? No, I burrowed into his arms, searching for the most comfortable spot. Simon, this is perfect. He pulled me tighter. Don't scare me again, Carl. Are you going to leave? Never again, I whispered, cupping his cheek. I'm staying. Right here. Always. Our dependency was probably unhealthy. But who cared? This was how we loved. Fierce, possessive, full of madness and meaning. The bells rang again, sharp and sweet, like the rhythm of our racing hearts. Simon, I love you. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.